Welcome to the Rural Recharge, a podcast from the Florida Farm Bureau Federation. The Rural Recharge is a guided conversation that allows you to cut through the noise and multitude of information out there. You should be able to trust your sources, which is why we're a platform that comes straight from the source of farmers and ranchers that grow what we eat, wear, and use every day. Our guest joining us today is David O'Farrell of Ocala Stud, located in Marion County. Mr. O'Farrell manages and owns with his family Ocala Stud, where they train and breed world-renowned thoroughbreds. He serves as the Thoroughbred Owner and Breeders Association Board of Trustees Chair, as a steward at the Jockey Club, and as a member of the Breeders' Cup Limited. Since 1958, Ocala Stud has bred, raised, and sold runners and ranked among the best of their divisions in the United States and abroad. Mr. O'Farrell, thank you for being with us today.
Jeb, thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a Floridian, born and raised in Ocala, grew up on the family farm, got away from the farm in college. I went to Erskine College in Due West, South Carolina, to see if there was anything else that would pique my interest. But the further I got away from the farm, the more I wanted to get back to it. So I actually followed what was going on the farm a little closer the further I was away. So when I graduated, I was itching to get back. And when I got back to the family farm, I started out right at the bottom. I had a degree, but I started right back on the broodmare band. I was riding on the back of the truck and learning from the bottom up. My dad said the only way you're going to learn the business is from the ground up. And I had grown up working on the farm, working with the yearlings, mowing grass, just hands-on with the horses. But to really learn the business and to understand it, you've got to learn all facets of it. So I started out with the broodmares and the foals, and I worked my way up to broodmare manager. I was the broodmare manager for a few years, and then I went to the training barn. I groomed 5 horses, became assistant trainer. Then I went to the stud barn, started working with the stallions, learning that aspect of the operation, and then worked my way up to general manager, to farm manager, and then general manager. So I can do just about anything there needs doing on the farm. There's some days that I wish I could just grab a pitchfork and go back out and just work. But there's a lot more to it now, and a lot more management and skill that comes with running a farm. But it's been great. It's a passion of mine. I'm 3rd generation horseman, and I love what I do. It's a lifestyle. It's not a business. It's before sunrise and some days till after sunset. It's something that it doesn't stop. So whether a holiday comes or the horses have to eat, they have to be cared for. And so there's a lot that goes into it, but it's a labor of love, and it's something that we love doing.
Do you use your degree?
Not really. I do use my degree.
What was your degree in?
Business.
Business,
which
okay.
is great.
Okay.
I mean, it's big business, and there's a lot of business that goes with it. But you've got to have, you got to have instincts. You got to have, some street smarts. There's no question that my degree played a role, but there's nothing better than hands-on experience and just getting in there and doing it.
Absolutely.
And learning through the experiences.
Tell us a little bit about the family and structure. I mean, you've told us you've worked your way up from a pitchfork to manager, and that's a big jump, that's for sure, and you had to earn it. Tell us a little bit how it's structured, how your business is with the family.
So my dad, he's still very much involved. He's in his late 70s, but he managed the farm from the time that he was a senior in college. My grandfather, who was the founder of the farm, he had a heart attack when my dad was in his last semester of his senior year at University of Florida. He dropped out and took over the operations of the farm. And he's been doing it ever since. He loves it. His passion is the thoroughbred business. And so he's still very much involved. My brother Joe is 3 years older than I. He helps run the farm. He's the office manager. He runs the books. He's very much involved with some local boards and organizations. And so we work it together. He has different talents than I, and it works really well for us. And we're best of friends, and it's a great family business for us.
That's neat. So your grandfather started the business in the 1950s. Was it something he had a passion for? How did he get started in the business?
We had a family farm in Maryland, Westminster, Maryland. He sold farm equipment. He had a dealership, but his passion was the farm. We had a small family farm, had some horses. He recruited a stallion to stand in Maryland for $300 named Rough and Tumble. He won the Santa Anita Derby, but he didn't have much breeding. And back in those days, you had to have pedigree to be a commercial stallion. So he was able to acquire this stallion, Rough and Tumble, when word got out that a farm was available for sale in Ocala, Florida. He hustled up some investors from Louisville, Kentucky to go down and look at this property to see if it was something that they'd be interested in buying. He fell in love with it. It was a newly built facility named Dickey Stables. It was about 900 acres, and it was the owner had fell ill about 3 years into the venture. So he put it up for sale. My grandfather drove down, it was before highways or before interstate, and he saw the property. He absolutely fell in love with it. So he got the investors from Kentucky to put the money up. He bought the farm, moved the family from Maryland in a week's time, and the rest is history. He brought Rough and Tumble with him, and in Rough and Tumble's first crop of Thoroughbreds, we had a national champion, 2-year-old filly named My Dear Girl. And so Rough and Tumble ended up being the foundation sire for the Florida breeding industry. Not only did he sire a champion from his first Thoroughbred crop, but he ended up siring a horse named Dr. Fager, who still holds the world record for the fastest mile on the dirt and one of the great racehorses of all time. Rough and Tumble is very much why I'm sitting here today.
Well, that's a neat story. It's just really neat how generationally, I don't know how you get into the horse business, but he just had an interest, and it seems like it's just really kind of a desire, a passion with life, and ended up working out coming to Florida. Do you have investors, or is it just family owned? Have you bought them out, or how does that work?
It's family owned. It's still family owned. My dad has sisters that are still, partners in the farm, and it's a family business, and we love it. The family's very supportive of us. We've had good years and bad, like every farmer, but we've stayed the course. We try not to panic when things are down or get too excited when things are good. Just try to stay level-headed, and it's been a really good business for our family. And it's not only just our immediate family, but the employees that have worked with us over the years. We're very, very fortunate. We've had some employees that have been with us for decades. Our yearling manager has been with us for over 50 years now.
Oh, wow.
Our head trainer's been with us over 40 years. He's getting close to his 50th anniversary. And then multiple others that have been 30 plus years. So we're very, very proud of the horses that we've raised over the years, but we've also raised families over the years too.
Well, that's even more special. And it does says a lot about you and your family, how you take care of your people, and they want to stay, but also an industry that has its ups and downs. I mean, all of us, agriculture is agriculture, and livestock is livestock, although it's a different type of livestock that you're working with in the thoroughbred industry. You've had some winners. You mentioned a couple of those. Have you had any others that would bear mentioning that have made Ocala Stud even more prominent in the thoroughbred industry?
Yeah, the Kentucky Derby winners. Most people when they ask what line of work you do and you tell them you're in the thoroughbred business, the first question is always, have you ever had a horse run in the Kentucky Derby, or have you ever had one win the Kentucky Derby? And we've been fortunate. We've had a few that have won that we've trained for clients. 1961, going way back, we had a horse named Carryback who won the Kentucky Derby. He was foaled, raised, and trained at Ocala Stud. And then in 1990, we trained a horse named Unbridled who won. And then in 2007, we had Street Sense. We've had some close calls. We had Captain Bodgett who got beat a lip in the Derby to Silver Charm, another Thoroughbred, two Thoroughbreds. And then we had a couple that, Fierceness last year. He didn't fare too well. He went off post-time favorite, but we've had some, we're trying to get that number up, but we've had some very good opportunities, and we've been fortunate and blessed to have had some really good horses over the years.
David, you continue to mention Florida and Florida crops, and this is important to Florida. And is there a competitive competitiveness between Florida and other places that breed thoroughbreds?
No question. So my grandfather, when he came to Florida, he acquired a bell from like a bell from a commissioned aircraft aircraft carrier, and it's the USS Kentucky. And he liked to compete with Kentucky. So anytime a Florida bred would win a race, there weren't many Florida breds in those days, but anytime that Florida bred would beat Kentucky breds, he'd ring the bell. You could hear it throughout the farm. So let all the help know that we had a winner on the farm. So he was very much trying to ring the bell for the Florida breds to try to get some enthusiasm and try to build the program. And he was very much the pioneer that helped bring people to Florida and prove that we could raise good horses here. It's interesting because when he did come to Florida in '56, there was only a handful of farms. And the first Florida bred happened to win the Kentucky Derby that year was a horse named Needles. And then 5 years later, another Florida bred that we raised named Carryback won the Kentucky Derby. So here you had 5 years apart, you had 2 Florida bred winners of the Kentucky Derby. That's unheard of. People were wondering what was in the water down in Ocala. And soon after that, people came in droves. That's when people really started to invest in Ocala and in Marion County, and buying horse farms. And it became a word of mouth thing. But people realized that two winners in 5 years was a big deal. So it really was the catalyst that got the Florida breeding industry going.
Are there any differences that would make Florida better over Kentucky and in regard to breeding and training?
The climate, no question. I mean, we right here today, it's gorgeous. It's early March, mid-March, and it's an absolutely picture perfect day. It's still cold in Kentucky. Right. They have hard ground. They still have, lousy weather. We have beautiful weather the time when foals are being born, mares are being bred back, horses are training. We have the best climate during the busiest part of the season for a thoroughbred, which is usually the late fall through early spring. That's when farms are at their busiest. That's when things are happening. And that's when our weather is at its absolute best. One thing that we have in common, we're very rich in lime rock. That is a common theme for areas that are conducive to producing good horses. Ocala is very rich in limestone. Kentucky's very rich in limestone. Ireland's very rich in limestone. How about that? And those are 3 of the most popular places to raise horses in the world. So we have really good soil. We have great climate. And we have good grass. We have rolling hills, big oak trees for shade in the summertime. It's just, to me, it's the best place. We have sandy soil that's kind on horses, on young horses that turn out to pasture. I personally believe that we can raise a better horse in Florida than you can in Kentucky. They'll have better bloodlines, but I think that we can. I'd put our horses up pound for pound with any in the world.
You talk about it from a producer standpoint there, but also from an economic standpoint, what your grandfather had done by word of mouth started a tremendous industry. And I mean, that is world renowned now. And that focal point comes to Florida with the climate, but now there's an infrastructure there as well that has built around it. An entire community has been developed around it economically. What kind of economic input or benefit is there to Marion County, Central Florida, as a result of the thoroughbred industry?
It's massive. To the state, it's more than a $3.2 billion economic impact. And
that's $3.2 billion with a B. That's amazing.
With a B. To put that in perspective, that's more than all collegiate sports in the state. That's a bigger impact than all collegiate sports in the state.
Yeah.
So, and it's massive. A big chunk of that is in Central Florida, in Marion County, where it's labor intensive. All the farms, there's a lot of owners. We board horses for clients that reside anywhere from New York, California, and everywhere in between. And, they board mares with us. That allows us to pay the feed man, buy hay, buy bulk shavings, buy fence materials, so on and so forth. And so there's just a huge economic impact within our own area that really it comes from a lot of investors, not only ourselves, but people outside of the state that are investing money into our product here in Marion County, which helps the folks in the general area. So it's bigger than it trickles down to a lot of folks.
Sure it does. It trickled down to me, that's for sure. I've sold perennial peanut to horse folks. Actually, they were out of state that came here, boarding horses in Florida, in Ocala, Florida, and used some of my product off of my farm. And I can tell you that's a trickle a long ways away too.
Yeah. And we just had a horse sale this week. So, we'll touch on 2-year-old training sales, I'm sure, shortly, but we just had a 3-day horse sale. It was the first 2-year-old sale of the season. And Ocala Breeder Sales Company offered 425 horses were sold for over $65 million. And buyers came from all over the world, from Japan, Europe, New York, California, South America, you name it.
David, tell me just a little bit about it, because that's just fascinating. I mean, we'll talk about some of the sale part of it here in a minute too, but from all over the world, they come and buy horses in Ocala, Florida. How do they get them back? How do they get a horse from Ocala, Florida to Japan? I heard you mention that one. I mean, but you're talking all over the world. I know there's some from Saudi Arabia and Dubai and those kinds of things buying horses in Florida. How do they get them across the ocean and back to their home place?
They fly them. They go in cargo planes. They have airplanes that have stalls and good attendance. It's basically a flying barn, and there they go first class.
That's what is the highest amount of money ever paid for a horse in Ocala, Florida?
The record for a 2-year-old in training was sold yesterday. There was a horse that sold for $3 million yesterday at Ocala Breeder Sales Company.
A 2-year-old in
2-year-old in training sold for $3 million.
And there's some risk associated with that too.
Absolutely.
They're not proven at 2 years old. This is just based on pedigree and look and capability for $3 million.
Correct.
Wow.
Yep. But it's basically the best analogy that I can give for a 2-year-old in training sale is it's similar to an NFL combine. So you're showing the horse perform on the racetrack by himself for either an 1/8 of a mile or a 1/4 of a mile. It's a timed event, and it's not just the time that matters. It's how the horse does it within himself and how he moves, and there's a lot of factors involved. How he gallops out after his timed work, how he comes back, how he vets, how people value the pedigree, the bloodline, so on and so forth, and they'll appraise the horse, and then there's a live auction that's conducted, and it makes 2 to tango. So it depends on who lines up on these horses, and the sky's the limit on some of them.
What is the highest value, if you don't mind? You don't have to answer it, but Ocala Stud has ever sold?
We sold a brood mare. We bought a brood mare a couple of years ago for $130,000, and she happened to be she happened to be a half sister to a champion. So we bought her before that he became a champion. So we sold her. She was in foal to the right horse, Nyquist, who was a Kentucky Derby winner. We took a shot there. We wound up selling her the following year for $1.3 million.
No. How many horses do you have and are in working with at Ocala Stud at any one time?
So we're in peak season right now. We're in full swing with our training operation. It's foaling season, it's breeding season. So we're at our peak season right now. The last I checked, we had 368 horses on the farm.
Good night. That includes those that you're training, but also that's a boarding part of it as well, and then also the brood part of it that you're breeding stock as well.
Yes. So we currently have about 165 training horses. We have about 10 stallions. We'll have about 100 brood mares, and we'll have about 75 yearlings, a couple teasers, a few donkeys, but it's, you don't really want to know how many. You'll go crazy. people ask me all the time, how many brood mares do you have? And it's something you probably don't really want to know.
Well, you probably got a revolving door of just people coming in to do services in regard to, to feed, to bedding, to materials for shoeing. And you have folks that are farriers, I'm sure, coming in and out, and vets and all kinds of things that you've got. But how many full-time employees do you have?
Right now we have about 80 employees.
80 employees.
Yes.
And is that an issue in the equine industry, is labor? Finding labor?
Yes, it's very difficult. That's one of the reasons why this industry is so important to Florida and to Marion County is we can't, with automation and technology, a lot of other industries are able to eliminate jobs and get more efficient and use technology. We can't do that. We're old fashioned. Robots can't take care of horses. We have to have the same number of help that we had 50 years ago. So we're very labor intensive, and finding available help is difficult in today's world.
How about vets? Do you have trouble finding good, solid vets to handle what you need in the equine industry as well, or even at Ocala Stud?
We're fortunate. We have an outstanding vet, and Dr. Bill Russell at Peterson and Smith, and he's at the farm every day, routine checkup. There's always something that needs to be attended to, addressed, or, whether it's a herd health issue or, just a lameness issue, or there's always something. So he's there every day, makes his rounds, and he's on call 24/7.
No way. So we talked about 2-year-old business of thoroughbred breeding, and and I have a list of questions here. And what does it take to make for a promising juvenile? Somebody that you're looking for. You're culling these out as well, but you're looking for the right ones.
Yeah, runners can come in all different shapes, colors, and sizes, and that's the beauty of the sport. If the billionaires or if the $1 million horses won every big race, then it wouldn't make for much parity. But sometimes you have the $3,000 horse that wins the Kentucky Derby, and that's what really levels the playing field and gives everybody a chance. And that's what makes it a fascinating business. Is you can have kings and queens that have the best stock in the world, but you can beat them with a Florida bred. And if you get lucky, you can win on the biggest stage, and it happens all the time. I mean, a lot of times the best pedigrees do win out, but that's not always the case. There's always outliers. There's always good horses like Kerry Back, who won in 1961. He was bred like a billy goat. I mean, he had lousy pedigree, but he was a great horse.
It's just amazing the amount of money that goes into it, and yet it can be just a stroke of complete luck to be able to make it all happen.
It's an inexact science. We had a filly, a Breeders' Cup champion, which is our World Thoroughbred Championships. It's an event held one day of the year or 2 days of the year in the fall, and each division of races has a championship event. And we had a filly, a little bay filly by one of our stallions that had been a good proven Florida sire, but never had any horses compete on a big national stage. We had a little filly. She was not very, just small, unassuming, plain brown wrapper. She wins the filly and mare sprint and became champion female sprinter in the country. And, that's the horse business. It's not always the ones that you think are going to be the best. You think which ones you like, but runners can come from anywhere.
And it truly is. It's not just based on physique. It's actually a lot of the internal personality of that individual horse and their heart, if you will.
No question. Their heart, their desire, they've got to be brave and they've got to be sound. And so it's you can't get too high on the ones that you think are good, and you can't get too low on the ones that you might not think are worth the cut. Sometimes you just got to give them the chance, and they'll, if you do right by the horse, they'll do right by you.
So why is 2 years the standard age? Why is that the one? And what makes it 2 years old? Who determines that, or why is that the case? The standard.
So 2-year-olds are much easier to break. They're, get ready, put a saddle on them, and kind of get them ready to be ridden. And so they're developing bones at such a high rate, and they're growing so fast. And it really helps with the bone development when they get the pounding of running a little bit. So a lot of slow development, jogging, slow galloping, and then increasing speed work over a long period of time, just doing it very slowly. It helps build stronger bones. And it's scientifically proven that horses that run at 2 have longer, more sustained racing careers than horses that get started at a later age. It's a misconception in the industry or from novices that think that horses are being pushed too early. It's more beneficial for them to be pushed early, and there's been studies that prove that point. But the earlier that they can get started, the more foundation they can have, the better it is for them long term.
Is that also why there's a benefit? We're talking about bone structure, you're talking about youth, but I also want to take it back just to what you said a few minutes ago, that there was some common, I will say, agronomy that was similar between Florida, Kentucky, and Ireland, and that is the structure of limestone, which is a calcium. And so is that part of the reason is these high calcified soils that have a benefit to the horse? Is that part of it because of the nutritional value that comes from being in a place that has accessibility to calcium carbonate? Or
no question. Absolutely. I definitely believe that to be true. All the calcium, it's good for horses' bones. It's not good for our clothes that go through the wash, but it's great for horses' bones. Between the calcium and the feed program that you implement, and then just training practices, animal husbandry practices, where you can develop them and really build the foundation. Then you can create a final product that, is going to be a sound, happy horse for time to come.
And David, too, it's also because of Florida, and you're able to run that 2-year-old to have a lot better because of the climate, because of the better climate. It's conducive to them being a better opportunity to judge that horse, to develop that horse because of the days that you're able to use them outside and run them?
Yeah, no question. And one of the benefits that we have for training horses in Central Florida is the weather. Those months that I mentioned, the fall to the early spring, we don't miss consecutive days of training. We might miss a day here and there where we get a rainy morning and we're off the track, which is good for them to miss a day every now and again. Everybody needs a break. Everybody, so that's a good thing. But when you start missing 2, 3, 4 consecutive days, that's where horses get into trouble. That's when when they start getting fit, they need to get out. They need to exercise. And horses are very routine animals. They like to eat at the same time every day. They like to train at the same time every day. If you're in the field, if you feed them at the same time, they come wandering up. They know what time it is, and they're happy when they're routine. When you take them out of their routine, then they're not going to thrive. So we're able to have a very regimented training schedule here in Central Florida because we don't miss much time.
I appreciate you just and allow me to ask those questions because to me, it's just a fascinating industry. And a lot of people would just drive by it and don't realize. You see the tracks, you see the horses, you'll see the infrastructure around it, but really don't know what's going on and why. Why is it here? Why isn't it somewhere else that it makes it? It just doesn't. It's here. It's here in Florida, and it's huge. And it is is it growing or is it shrinking? What about the industry as a whole today?
The industry as a whole is shrinking, and I think that I think that is similar to a lot of agricultural industries. I'm also in the cattle business. That's kind of my side gig. My hobby is cows. I have a small cow-calf herd, but I see where the national calf crop is the smallest it's been since the early 50s. Right. And I think, the same thing with thoroughbreds. The industry is shrinking. It got to a point in the 70s where the foal crop was really large. It was double what it is today. But the game has changed, and it's less about producing large volume of horses, and it's more of a flight to quality. It's just so expensive. The $2,000 horse costs just as much to keep as the $2 million horse. So people are, instead of owning 10 brood mares, they're going to own 3 really good ones. And so that's kind of a trend that we've seen over the years, where there's more quality. People want fewer numbers, but they want better horses. They want better stock. And so that's kind of the trend that we've seen. It's still very much a vibrant business. There's a lot of demand for quality stock, and we've made a huge investment in safety of our sport. Some of the other jurisdictions and racetracks have made a huge investment into their facilities. So racing is alive and well. We need to ensure that it's alive and well in Florida, because it's a huge benefit to the industry and to the state.
Absolutely. Talk to us a little bit about the care that you're talking about. Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance is something, a part of that as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
The Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance is a wonderful organization. Ocala Stud, we help get it off the ground, and I served on their board of directors. They do a really good job of identifying horses that could be retrained and rehomed and go on to new careers. It's more and more popular to use thoroughbreds and show jumping world and pleasure horses. And so, a lot of good horses are able to find second careers. We've gotten really good at being able to retrain them for those different endeavors. And it's basically an industry investment where stallion farms will give a quarter of one stud fee annually, or the purchase of a horse at auction, just a small amount of the, just a quarter of a percent of the sale of the horse will go to a fund to pay for the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance. And then they will have accredited organizations that will take these thoroughbreds, retrain them, and then find them new homes. And so there's a lot of oversight, but all the money goes to the horses.
It's just a fascinating thing to me that you've got a production-oriented industry that's producing for the racing industry, and yet then afterwards, those animals that are looking for, and definitely from a publicity standpoint, from a public perceptive standpoint, is definitely very healthy to the industry to have a place for those animals to be placed. And it's unique. And to me, it sounds so unique is why it's being utilized, but to have other people have interest. I mean, you said it a little while ago, $2,000 horse, $2 million horse, this still costs a lot of money to be able to house and to take care of them. But there are people that are doing that with horses that have been retired.
That's right.
That's neat. To me, there's a lot to this, and that keeps that horse industry viable beyond the racing industry here in Florida and abroad as well. There's a lot of money in pleasure horses, but they can have a opportunity to have a second job, second home. That's interesting. How do people get in contact with that to find a used thoroughbred that they can be able to pick up with? There's
a few different organizations, but you can reach out to the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance, and they'll direct you to one in your area or your location. Here locally, we have a number of them. One of them is New Vocations. They do a terrific job of getting these horses and giving them the rehab and time that they need to get over any ailment that they may have, but then get them retrained and ready for that second career. Where they're ready to go, and you're going to get a quality horse that has been well cared for, and is ready to go on and be a happy, healthy horse for its new owner.
About how old would they be at that point, David?
Anywhere from 3 to 10, I would say.
And what's the average lifespan of a thoroughbred?
18, 20, 22. And some of them, but most horses, they retire from racing before they're 10.
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
So some of the horses may be a little older, but most horses can run up until, 9 years of age.
Point is, they got a lot of life left in them. That's for sure.
They do.
A long time.
They do.
It's amazing. I was just looking through some of these statistics. According to the Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association, the equine industry has a total economic impact. You said at $3.2 billion is what it was earlier, and then contributing. Actually, this is in Marion County. That $4.3 billion, but contributing 22% of the county's GDP and supporting 28,500 jobs. Is that correct?
Yeah,
that's a lot of impact.
That's a lot of impact. It's a big deal for Marion County. It's, we identify as horse country in Marion County and in Ocala. It's what people know us. That's who we are. We're horse country. We're the horse capital of the world. As I alluded to earlier, it creates a lot of jobs. Horses are not. You can't automate it. You can't have a computer eliminate jobs and cut your workforce. You've got to have the help.
I look at 22% of GDP in Marion County is the horse industry. That's just amazing. And people drive by it every day, and it's not necessarily standing out as being that kind of impact.
Yeah, a lot of people drive down the road and they ride by farms and they see the big, beautiful pastures and the fence lines and the horses grazing. But, it looks so peaceful and tranquil, but, there's a lot of work that goes on the farm, and there's a lot of labor and a lot of things that are happening, especially early in the morning, before the rooster crows. There's a lot happening.
Routine. Well, a lot of people are driving by and then they look at it and they say, I like that beautiful pasture. I like those standing oak trees, and I want to buy some of that. I want to be a part of it. And development's coming, and Marion County is no different than a lot of the rest of the state of Florida, or even around this country. We're seeing ag lands that are transitioned into other things, and especially residential. That's a competing interest against what's happening in Ocala and with the horse industry. Are you seeing that personally? Do you see development pressures there? And if so, how's the industry standing up against it or to it?
Yeah, I think, Ocala is growing for the better. It's maybe growing a little too fast for its own good, but it is growing, and I think that's a good thing. It's a better place to live now than I think it was when I was a kid. There's certainly more to do. There's more available, and there's still plenty of green space. There's still a lot of big, beautiful farms, and the town's growing up. But I think it's a good balance to have meaningful growth, but also be able to preserve some of the great green space and horse country that we have.
Is the equine industry profitable enough to withstand some of those pressures from values that are increasing? Is it productive and profitable enough to say, no, we're going to stay in this industry and we're not tempted to sell today?
For many of the people that participate in the thoroughbred world, the majority of them have, they have a lot of wealth. So they're able to play the game. They've made their money in other industries, and they like having the property, having the farm, and playing the game. And it's not necessarily it's not as much of a business, it's more of a pleasure.
Well, that makes sense as well. How do you, with the shrinking of the industry, we're going for quality over quantity. Is there any concern? Racing at one point it have a lot of environmental groups and animal welfare advocates that are pushing against it. Y'all have done. That's why this alliance is so important too, is to have a good public perception of the industry. Is there anything else that is a threat to the thoroughbred industry and could you identify any of those kinds of issues today?
Well, the biggest threat that we have right now is House Bill 105 that is decoupling a gaming license with the racetracks in Florida. We have two current thoroughbred permit holders in the state of Florida, which are Gulfstream Park and Hallandale Beach Florida, and Tampa Bay Downs. And so Gulfstream Park initiated a bill that would allow them to decouple from their slots casino license, which was obtained through a partnership with the Horsemen. So the Horsemen are partners with the casino, which allows for some of the purse monies to come from the slots revenue. And Gulfstream Park has recently they've recently decided that their real estate is worth a lot more money than they should keep running horses on. So they would like to potentially sell their real estate, but in order to do that, they want to decouple from the Horsemen. They want to get the casino rights, cut the Horsemen out, sell the property, and that bill is moving forward in the House next week on Monday. We were talking about just in Ocala, the increasing property values and what it might have on your side of the industry, but on the racing side of it, just in one spot, that could be devastating to the industry because of the decoupling, that you don't have another viable place to race here close to home. Right. It's very concerning. Gulfstream Park has been our flagship racetrack for many years now, and they run over 200 days a year.
Oh, wow.
So it's a substantial, a substantial race meet that supports Thoroughbreds year round. So it's a bit concerning. Fully understand their free market will to capitalize on their real estate, but to get a parting gift of a casino at the expense of the Horsemen that they really obtained on the backs of Horsemen, is really concerning. Without us being able to have enough time to find a viable solution to help the industry going forward. And that's the main issue is we understand that I understand that the racing landscape will change in Florida eventually. We just need time to figure out the new solutions, what they are, so that we can, build our program back up and, help the breeders that are trying to, carry on this tradition and this sport that's been so good for the state for so many years.
David, this is just curiosity, but if you have a particular spot, the land value is too high and they want to decouple, why don't you just pick it up and move it to somewhere else? What would it take to build another facility in another location that has a lower land value to be able to accommodate the need for the Horsemen?
Well, there's a couple things in play. You need, for one, we'd love to have a racetrack someday in Marion County, but we need statutes changed that would allow for a racetrack in Marion County. There's currently a statute that prohibits you from having a racetrack within 100 miles of another parimutuel permit, which is Tampa Bay Downs. So currently, as the law states, we cannot have a race meet in Ocala. But that's something that we could maybe work through with the legislature at some point in time. You could look for other properties in South Florida, which is a big market for racing. It attracts a lot of tourism, a lot of people that run horses nationally that come here. I mean, this is a big. It supports a lot of people, a lot of tourism. It's a big thing, not just the breeding and training in Marion County, but racing is a big economic impact for South Florida. So that's something that we need to look at. I think the industry at large, and this is not just a Florida issue, this is a national issue. This is something that everybody's engaged in. It's very important for the industry at large to have racing in Florida. So we need time to figure out what that's going to look like. If the Stronachs with Gulfstream Park, if they want to sell their land and get out of racing, that's great. But we need the time to figure out what a meaningful solution looks like so that we can put everybody at ease and allow them to invest in the Florida program with the confidence knowing that the industry is going to be alive and well. It takes 3 years to breed a racehorse. It's 11-month gestational period, and then you raise them, you train them, and they run it too. So it's a 3-year investment. So, when you have uncertainty that Gulfstream Park might be closed in 3 years, it's hard to wrap your head around wanting to breed your horse in Florida, having a Florida bred, knowing that there may not be 200 days of racing in South Florida at Gulfstream Park. So it creates a lot of uncertainty, and it allows for people to make decisions to move their brood mares or their breeding stock out of the state to other states that have lucrative incentives to breed and race. So it's, time is of the essence. This is something that is really concerning to us, here in Florida, and really concerning nationwide. But we're gonna, fight the bill, and look for meaningful solutions that we can maybe negotiate a better deal for us going forward and allow Gulfstream Park to exercise their free market rights to sell their property.
What was that bill again, David?
It's HB 105.
HB 105. Folks can remember that and be able to help and participate in it. And it's especially the promotion of a very healthy industry here in Florida. What else? Where else can you go? Where else do people race? Is there a racetrack in every state, or are there a few in the South? How many give us a frame of reference on where there are availability to race nationwide?
Kentucky is the strongest circuit right now, between Churchill Downs, Keeneland, Ellis Park, and Turfway. They have 4 very strong racetracks. New York is very strong for the health of the industry. Belmont Park, Saratoga Springs, and then in California you have Santa Anita, and then everywhere in between. Arkansas, believe it or not, has a wonderful racetrack in Oaklawn Park, and the fairgrounds in New Orleans. So there's a lot of very good racetrack. Colonial Downs in Virginia, a lot of small tracks. There's plenty of racing nationwide, and it's a wonderful industry. We need more tracks. There has been some major investment in some of the tracks in New York and Arkansas, Kentucky. So we need Florida. We need Florida to find new solutions. And we will. The industry is very much engaged, and I'm very optimistic about the future of Florida racing. But we need to get the ball rolling on finding what the new schedule is going to look like.
David, what was we have 2 now, but how many racetracks did we have at one point? But I'm sure there were more than that.
We had Hialeah Park in South Florida, Calder, which was owned by Churchill Downs. And that's the problem. Both of those tracks, through loopholes in the legislation, were decoupled. They were decoupled. Mm-hmm. Hialeah, they ran a quarter horse meet, and they kind of figured out that if they could run quarter horses, they had a better chance of getting decoupled. And now they run a very successful casino with no live racing. Calder did the same thing with their parent company, Churchill Downs. They pulled an end around, and they used Highlight, which is a sport that's been dead for 45 years, maybe 50 years. But they actually did a Highlight deal a couple years ago, and they were able to decouple that pari-mutuel event, and now they have a big casino, and they were able to bulldoze their racetrack. So the precedent is set. If Gulfstream Park gets decoupled, they will end racing. And that's a terrible precedent for something that they were able to obtain their casino license through their partnership with a horseman. And the state's always treated the thoroughbred industry a little bit different than standard breds and quarter horses and dog tracks and so on and so forth, because we do provide such a big economic impact. And that's why it's so important that we defeat this bill and we don't allow them to decouple.
How many breeders are there in the state of Florida?
That's a good question. I don't have the direct number, but I have a pretty good pulse from selling stallion seasons and talking with people. There's quite a few farms in Ocala. We have stallions that stay pretty busy. So, I couldn't tell you exactly how many breeders there are, But there's quite a few people that are very, very much in the business, breeding horses daily. I'm on the phone all day, every day, booking mares and getting them into the breeding shed and so on and so forth. So we're still the third highest producing state in the country as far as foals produced.
Kentucky's number one.
Kentucky, and then New York, and then Florida. Florida and California are close.
Those are just good numbers. I mean, just to see the impact. We see the economic impact, but the personal impact, I think, is what I was thinking when we were talking about the decoupling and shutting down of one track and what impact that has. It's a lot of people. There's no doubt about it. Not just workers, not just economic impact, but it's farms and people, families that are doing exactly what you're doing that are affected by this. And y'all are the ones that built it too.
Yeah, and the racetrack is owned by a Canadian billionaire. And so this is one bill that's going to benefit one Canadian billionaire at the expense of an entire agricultural industry that creates that huge $3.2 billion economic impact and 33,000 jobs. It's a no-brainer for the state of Florida to kill this bill and find a new solution. Allow her to develop her land as she wishes, but also allow for us to find new solutions and to carry our signature industry for Florida, be able to carry it for the next generation.
Absolutely. David, I appreciate you coming. And I'm so full of questions because it's a curious thing. It's not one that oftentimes people will actually associate with agriculture, but it is. It's an integral part of our state and who we are. I've known your brother for many years and got to work with him on the Marion County Farm Bureau Board of Directors, and he's educated me through the years. But I just think it's an exciting episode for our podcast to make people aware, and also the dangers of it that come with legislation and the powers that can make such a radical change in it. I have one question though in regard to the legislation of not allowing for or having a limitation in regard to the 100 miles for a parimutuel. Is a parimutuel permit. When did that come into effect? And I'm sure there was a reason for it, but when did that come into? Was that put into legislation?
A long time ago, and it's never been changed. Quite frankly, we've always been of the mindset that we need strong racing in South Florida. That's really where
be more of them.
Yeah, and we breed in Ocala, but racing has always been very vibrant in South Florida. It's where a lot of the international or even national people want to attend. They winter in South Florida. It's a destination, and it's something that is very much there's a lot of history with running in South Florida, and it's something that people have money that live in South Florida. They like going to the races. It's social. It's something that we've always felt we wanted a stronger South Florida rather than to have something in Ocala that would maybe not be quite as vibrant. It's something that we're looking at for the future. If we can create a viable race meet in Ocala one day, that would be wonderful. I think it would be very popular. I think it would be something that would be good for the area. There's challenges that come with that. You've got to be able to fund the purses so that you can have competitive race meets and have quality horses and horsemen, and to where it would actually benefit the community. So if it's done, it has to be done right. In the meantime, I think we Tampa's got a wonderful racetrack. I think some resources could be allocated that way, and we could have a really strong meet at Tampa. And then there's other options to look for properties in South Florida, maybe a little further north than Miami, to where maybe we could have a race meet there. But it's going to take a little bit of time to figure those things out. There's a lot of people that are fully engaged in this and want to see racing move forward and are willing and ready to invest once they understand what the landscape is going to look like. And we won't know that until this bill passes or doesn't pass. And then, ultimately what Belinda Stronach and Gulfstream Park, what they want to do with their racetrack. Are they going to sell it? Are they going to develop it? Or are they going to continue to race? So it really depends on what it is they want to do. But there are people that are interested in seeing this sport thrive in Florida. And, so it's something that, it's a little bit of an uncertain time right now, but I think it's an opportunity to build a new strategy and a new plan for racing for Florida to where, it could be beneficial to everybody, including the state of Florida.
Well, David, thank you so much for your time today. I've learned a lot. Is there one thing last that you would like to leave with the listeners?
I would go to the FTBOA website and they'll have a link. If you're anti-decoupling, please go to the link. You can write your local representative, your local senator, and tell them that you're not for decoupling. That would be a huge help if you're against the bill going forward. Also, started the Thoroughbred Racing Initiative to help try to combat the bill. You can visit us on our website, donate. We're trying to do everything we can to stop this bill and to find new solutions for racing in Florida. But appreciate the time and thank you very much for having me today.
That's David O'Farrell with Ocala Stud. Thank you again. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for supporting the Rural Recharge podcast. We hope that you are enjoying these conversations brought to you by farmers for your benefit. While you're here, please consider giving us a rating or a review. It really does help us to continue to share the stories of our Florida farm families and the important impact they have on your community. Thank you, and have a great day.